What if I told you that the most dangerous demons you'll ever face don't hide in the shadows or lurk in your nightmares, but are actually the people smiling back at you at the dinner table? The ones who call you love, the ones who call you bro, all while silently, insidiously stealing your very soul. Have you ever felt yourself inexplicably fading, like you're becoming a stranger in your own skin, and had that chilling suspicion that someone very close to you might be the hidden cause? Even if you couldn't quite prove it, that creeping doubt, that gnawing confusion that makes you question your insanity, it's probably not in your head. Today, we are tearing off the masks, using the timeless, battle-tested wisdom of the ancient Stoics as our unflinching guide. We're going to expose 5 chillingly common signs of these psychological parasites. We'll arm you with the critical insight to identify them and reclaim your mind before it's truly too late. And be warned, what you're about to learn, you will never be able to unsee. These human-shaped demons, they don't grow horns, they don't breathe literal fire. No, they breathe something far more insidious into your life: doubt, guilt, pervasive confusion, and worst of all, they achieve this while wearing the comforting, familiar face of someone you once deeply trusted, someone you perhaps still love. These entities aren't characters from a fantasy novel. They are very real psychological parasites. Their aim isn't necessarily to kill you physically. Their insidious work is far more subtle. They simply ensure that, over time, you no longer recognize the person staring back at you in the mirror. And the absolute scariest part, you often don't even consciously register that it's happening, not until the damage is profound, until it feels almost too late. But today, right now, we break that spell. Today, through the clarifying lens of ancient Stoic wisdom, we're going to expose them. Because as the great Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius so powerfully stated, if someone can control your mind, they already own your life. So, in this video, we're not hunting mythical monsters. We're uncovering 5 very real-world, often subtle, signs that someone in your life, a partner, a friend, a family member, a colleague, might be slowly, quietly, and systematically destroying you from the inside out. And once you learn to see these signs, truly see them for what they are, you'll never be able to unsee them again. Let's begin. Sign number 1, the emotional parasite, the constant energy drain. Have you ever walked away from what should have been a simple hangout, a casual phone call, or a routine interaction, feeling like you've just run an exhausting mental and emotional marathon? Even though you barely moved physically, your body aches with a strange fatigue. Your mind is inexplicably foggy, and your very soul feels hollowed out, depleted. You might have shown up to the interaction smiling, feeling perfectly fine, but you left feeling like a mere ghost of your former self. That, my friends, is not normal. That's not just a rough conversation or you being too sensitive. That is often the telltale sign of an encounter with an emotional parasite. This is the kind of person who, often unconsciously but sometimes quite deliberately, feeds off your energy, not just your words or your time. And the worst part, the most insidious aspect, is that they rarely scream or make overt threats. They don't typically even ask directly for what they're taking. They just take, quietly, skillfully, repeatedly. They often show up in your life cloaked in vulnerability, perhaps sharing endless tales of woe, making you feel like their only savior. Life's just been so incredibly hard for me lately. They might sigh, no one else understands me the way you do. Or that classic line, you're literally the only person I can really talk to about this. They sound so helpless, don't they? So needy, and because you're likely a good person, thoughtful, loyal, perhaps even aspiring to Stoic virtues like compassion, you listen patiently. You nod empathetically. You offer your unwavering support, your time, your emotional energy. But then, after the interaction, you suddenly realize something profound. This wasn't a reciprocal conversation. It was predominantly a monologue, with you as the silent, absorbent audience. And by the end, you are left feeling completely emotionally wiped out, while they seem to be walking away lighter, calmer, somehow inexplicably recharged. You didn't just talk with a friend. You were, in essence, drained. Here's the hidden pattern that most people unfortunately miss until they're utterly depleted. Whenever you try to share something about your own life, your own struggles or triumphs, they skillfully, almost reflexively, find a way to hijack the moment and steer the conversation back to themselves. You might say, "It's been a tough week. My dog passed away," and their response, "Oh, wow, that's so sad. Yeah, that totally reminds me of when my hamster, Whiskers, died when I was like 12. Honestly, I think that scarred me more than anything in my entire childhood." Or worse, when you finally gather the courage to express your own needs, saying something like, "I'm feeling really tired tonight. I think I need some space," they might hit you with, "Oh, but I thought you cared about me. I guess I was wrong." And just like that, they flip the script, expertly guilt-tripping you, and before you even realize what's happening, you find yourself apologizing for not allowing someone to siphon off even more of your precious life force. This is not love. This is not genuine friendship. This is not empathy. This, gentlemen, is a subtle form of emotional theft. And in that dynamic, you've become the unwilling, constantly dispensing ATM. Marcus Aurelius once wisely admonished, "You should not give your soul away so easily." Modern society often praises boundless kindness and self-sacrifice, and rightly so, in many contexts, but Stoic philosophy powerfully reminds us that true wisdom also involves knowing when that kindness, unchecked by boundaries, morphs into self-betrayal. You were not put on this earth to endlessly carry everyone else's emotional burdens, especially at the steep cost of your own stability and peace of mind. Being a good human being doesn't mean being emotionally available 24/7 to anyone and everyone who demands it. It means having the courage, the self-respect, to set firm boundaries and to diligently protect your soul from those who mistake your kindness for weakness, or your access for an unwavering entitlement to your energy. So, how do you spot this kind of parasite more definitively? Try this simple test the next time you're about to meet or interact with someone who you suspect might be draining you. 1. Before the conversation begins, pause and genuinely check in with yourself. How's your current mood? What's your prevailing energy level? What's your sense of mental clarity? Make a mental note. 2. After the interaction, as soon as you can, ask yourself those same questions again. Do I feel lighter now, or significantly heavier, more at peace, or more agitated and like a dried out, empty shell? If the answer is consistently, overwhelmingly negative, if you consistently leave interactions with this person feeling drained, confused, inexplicably guilty, or mentally foggy, then you likely weren't just being a good friend. You were, in all probability, being energetically fed on. Here's a crucial Stoic lesson to internalize. It's not that you're inherently weak or flawed if this happens. It's often that someone else has, consciously or unconsciously, figured out how to skillfully extract your energy without your explicit permission, and perhaps even made you feel guilty or selfish for noticing or wanting to stop it. The true Stoic doesn't give their soul, their inner peace, away lightly. They recognize that vital energy is just as finite and precious as time, and it must be guarded with the same unwavering seriousness. You are not obligated to be perpetually available to everyone who demands your attention. You absolutely do not owe your presence, your empathy, to people who consistently treat your kindness like a bottomless pit they can endlessly draw from. And no, you're not too sensitive for feeling this way. You're just finally waking up to a dynamic that has been subtly undermining you. A final insight on this point: true, healthy connection leaves you feeling fulfilled, energized, and seen, not empty, depleted, and used. Good people, healthy relationships involve a reciprocal flow. They pour into you as much as they receive from you. Emotional parasites, by their very nature, only know how to take, and they'll often do it with a disarming smile or a tale of woe. So, from this moment forward, be relentlessly intentional. Protect your energy as fiercely as a Stoic would protect their inner citadel of peace. Because once you reclaim your emotional power, once you value your own well-being, the parasites often vanish. They only thrive in the shadows when you forget what your own soul is truly worth. Now, let's talk about sign number 2, the isolator, the one who subtly severs your lifelines. At first, it often seems so harmless, almost caring, a gentle suggestion here, a subtly raised eyebrow there, a seemingly offhand comment, perhaps said with a chuckle to soften the blow. You know, I don't think your mom really respects you, does she? Or, it's funny, your friends only ever seem to show up when they want something from you. Have you noticed, or you ever notice how people always seem to talk over you in that group? It's like they don't value your opinion. You might shrug it off initially. You might even think they're just being protective, looking out for your best interests. But these are often not just random thoughts or innocent observations. They are, frequently, calculated seeds of doubt and division, planted deep within your mind, designed to grow slowly, almost imperceptibly, over time. Isolation, you see, is not always loud and dramatic, like a slammed door. Sometimes, its most effective form is strategically silent, a gradual erosion of your support system. You don't even realize it's happening, but suddenly, you find you're reaching out to your old friends less and less. You skip that family dinner you might have once looked forward to. You're just too tired. You tell yourself, you gradually stop inviting people over to your place anymore. They probably wouldn't understand us anyway. Becomes the quiet, shared narrative, and every time you retreat a little further from your established network, that one particular person, the isolator, often quietly applauds you, reinforces your decision. You're so much better off without them. You know, it's just you and me now, against the world. We're all we need. This, gentlemen, is not the hallmark of genuine love or healthy partnership. This is a classic tactic of isolation through insidious influence. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once offered this profound piece of wisdom. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish or stupid in externals. Don't wish to be thought to know anything. And if you appear to be somebody important to others, distrust yourself. A true Stoic does not overly fear being misunderstood by the wider world, because their validation comes from within. But the divider, the isolator, makes you desperately fear being truly understood or even seen by anyone else but them. They meticulously build a powerful, often codependent, bond with you, not primarily to uplift you or support your individual growth, but ultimately to own you, to control your perceptions and your loyalties. And the very first, indispensable step in achieving that kind of psychological ownership is to systematically remove, or at least neutralize, all other significant voices, all other potential sources of support or contrary perspectives in your life. Let's break down the psychological mechanics here. What's really happening? This is a subtle form of emotional colonization. They systematically break down your existing mental and emotional defenses by slowly, persuasively making you choose him over almost everyone else who once mattered to you. You might hear things like, "Oh, so you're choosing to hang out with him tonight? I thought you cared about me. I guess I was wrong." Or, "Wow, you're helping your sister out again. I guess I just always come second to your family, don't I?" Or the classic, "You always seem to light up so much when you're around other people. Do I not make you happy anymore?" You begin to feel an inexplicable sense of guilt for spending time with your friends, your family, anyone outside of them. So, eventually, you just stop, not because they explicitly forbade you, not because they issued an ultimatum, but because they've skillfully, persistently trained your emotions to obey their silent, often disapproving, cues. A Stoic insight is crucial here. The Stoics deeply understood the immense value of a strong, virtuous inner circle of true companionship. Marcus Aurelius journaled daily not just to guide his own thoughts and actions, but also to anchor himself against the potentially negative pull of others, to reinforce his own principles. In his meditations, he frequently writes about not tying your happiness to things outside your rational control. And while we can't control others, Our connections, the people we choose to invest in and nurture relationships with, are one of the few significant things we can consciously choose. If someone in your life is actively, consistently, even if subtly, pulling you away from those friends, those family members, those mentors who once made you stronger, who supported your growth, you absolutely must ask yourself this critical question: why are they so seemingly afraid of you being surrounded by love, support, and perspectives that aren't exclusively theirs? A final insight on this dangerous sign: true, healthy relationships expand your life. They open up new horizons, new connections, new possibilities. False, manipulative, or parasitic ones inevitably compress it, often shrinking your entire world down to just that one person. You're probably not too busy to see your friends. You've more likely been slowly, subtly taught to believe they don't matter as much anymore, or that they're somehow a threat to your primary relationship. But they do matter, and you matter, independently of this one person. And the very moment you recognize who has been systematically, insidiously cutting you off from your vital support network, you take the first courageous step towards taking your soul back. This brings us to the often bewildering experience of sign number 3, the gaslighter, waging a subtle war on your sanity. I never said that. You're just imagining things. Wow, you're being way too sensitive. You hear it once, you might dismiss it, then you hear it again, in a different context, and then a third time, and suddenly, a chilling uncertainty begins to creep in. You're not so sure anymore what really happened, what was actually said. Your memory, which you once trusted, starts to feel blurry, unreliable. Your own emotions feel increasingly chaotic and untrustworthy. And somewhere deep inside, a terrifying question begins to whisper: am I losing my mind? This, gentlemen, is not mere confusion. This is not a simple misunderstanding. This is a deliberate, insidious tactic. It's called gaslighting, and it's unequivocally one of the most devastating and psychologically damaging manipulations known to humankind. Gaslighting is, in essence, a subtle, undeclared war on your sanity. A skilled gaslighter doesn't typically need to raise their voice or make overt, aggressive threats. They weaponize subtlety. They systematically undermine your perception of reality, minute by minute, interaction by interaction, until you eventually stop trusting your own judgment, your own memories, your own feelings. It often starts incredibly small, with seemingly minor incidents. A conversation you remember having with crystal clarity. That never happened, they'll say with utter conviction. An agreement you both explicitly made. I never promised that. You must be mistaken. A clear boundary you drew regarding a certain behavior. You're completely overreacting. It wasn't a big deal. And slowly, insidiously, you begin to second-guess not only your memory of events, but also your fundamental right to feel hurt, disrespected, or confused by their actions. Let's look at this through a Stoic lens. Epictetus once wisely said, "We are not disturbed by things, but by the view we take of them." This is a cornerstone of Stoic thought. Our internal interpretation shapes our experience. But what happens when your very view of things, Your ability to interpret reality accurately is constantly being questioned, twisted, dismissed, and denied by someone you trust. Gaslighting doesn't just disturb your view of the world, it actively seeks to hijack your inner compass, your intuitive sense of truth, leaving you spinning in an emotional and cognitive storm where nothing feels solid. Nothing feels real anymore. The psychology behind why gaslighting is so effective and so damaging is that it's typically cumulative. It's a slow burn. First, they might deny an event occurred as you remember it. Then, they'll often reinterpret your valid emotional reactions to their behavior as evidence of your instability. You're too emotional. You're always looking for a problem. Then, almost invariably, they'll skillfully shift the blame for the conflict, or for their own actions, entirely onto you. Eventually, after enduring this pattern repeatedly, even when you are completely, objectively right about something, you start to feel like you're profoundly wrong, or even crazy, for simply speaking up or trusting your own perceptions. This constant assault on your reality is designed to make you more dependent on their version of events, their approval, and that constant assault on your reality, that feeling of being profoundly wrong even when your gut screams otherwise, is designed to make you more dependent, more malleable to their version of events, their control, their approval. And when you finally muster the courage to confront them about these discrepancies, about the pain they're causing, you often walk away somehow apologizing to them. Think about that. They didn't defeat your argument with logic or truth. They defeated your certainty in yourself. For a real-life example, perhaps you tell them, "It genuinely hurt me when you ignored my message for 2 full days. Especially when you knew I was waiting for an answer." And they reply with a dismissive air, "Oh, you're always so dramatic. I was incredibly busy, and anyway, you didn't even say anything that's important." So now, in that moment, you're not only questioning the validity of your hurt feelings, but you're also left wondering whether your words, your needs, ever mattered at all. And the next time something similar happens, you might choose to stay silent. But that silence isn't peace. It's a slow, painful surrender of your voice. So, what's the Stoic strategy here? You must anchor yourself in your own unshakable truth. A true Stoic practitioner doesn't rely on the shifting sands of the outside world or other people's validation to define their inner peace or their reality. They painstakingly build it inwardly, with the solid bricks of logic, honest reflection, and unflinching truth-telling to the self. A powerful tool for this is to keep a private journal. Write down what happened, exactly what was said, as best you can recall, and most importantly, how it made you feel. Use your own documented words, your own recorded experiences, as tangible evidence, because your perception, your reality, absolutely matters. The Stoics trained themselves to detach from knee-jerk judgments and emotional reactivity, but they never advocated for ignoring or denying objective reality. A final, chilling insight on gaslighting. Its ultimate aim isn't just to win the argument of the moment. Its deeper, more insidious goal is to make you profoundly afraid of ever having an argument, of ever trusting your own perceptions, ever again when someone systematically makes you doubt your memory, your feelings, and even your own thoughts. You're not just losing confidence, you're surrendering your inner freedom. And that, gentlemen, is a price no wise man, no self-respecting individual should ever be willing to pay. This leads us to sign number 4, the two-faced manipulator, the master of the mask of kindness. Have you ever had someone in your life who was an absolute paragon of virtue to the outside world, charming to others, hilariously funny, remarkably generous, almost magnetically charismatic, but then, behind the sacred privacy of closed doors, you saw a version of them so different, so cold, so cutting, that it made you question if they were even the same human being? In public, they were perhaps your greatest cheerleader, your most vocal supporter, but in private, they transformed into your cruelest, most dismissive critic. This isn't just someone having a bad mood or an off day. This is often calculated psychological warfare, meticulously crafted by a master manipulator. This mask of kindness is arguably the most dangerous, most insidious kind of evil, because it's the one that expertly hides behind a carefully cultivated good reputation. To the world, they're a saint. People admire them, trust them implicitly, perhaps even tell you constantly how incredibly lucky you are to have them in your life. But when those doors close, when the audience leaves and the metaphorical cameras are off, they morph into someone else entirely, cold, harsh, subtly controlling, hypercritical, and if you try to tell someone, a friend, a family member, about this Jekyll and Hyde transformation, they often don't believe you. What? No, they couldn't possibly be like that. They're always so nice, so wonderful, and suddenly, you become the one who looks crazy, unstable, or ungrateful. This is not random. This is often a deliberate psychological trap, a devastatingly effective one, sometimes involving what's known as intermittent reinforcement. Here's how it works. They shower you with praise and affection one day, making you feel on top of the world. Then, often for no discernible reason, they tear you apart with criticism or icy withdrawal the next. They give love, then snatch it away. They create an emotional whiplash so intense, so disorienting, that you gradually stop trusting your own emotional equilibrium. Just like a desperate gambler at a slot machine, you keep pulling that lever. You keep trying, keep hoping that this time, this interaction, they'll be kind again. They'll revert to that good version you cling to. They've effectively made you addicted to hope, and hope, in this toxic dynamic, is the most seductive and dangerous drug there is. What's the Stoic perspective here? Seneca once profoundly stated, "A wise man is always the same." Genuine character, authentic virtue, doesn't dramatically change with the audience. It doesn't flip-flop between suffocating warmth and bone-chilling ice depending on whether someone else is watching. If someone you're close to consistently displays two starkly different faces, one for the world, and a very different, often darker one that only you see, trust the one they try to hide. That's usually closer to their true nature. The ultimate goal of this kind of two-faced behavior, this psychological control through unpredictability, isn't just to confuse you, it's to control you. Because when someone's behavior is wildly unpredictable, when you never know which version of them you're going to get, you become hypervigilant. You start walking on eggshells. You overthink every word you say, every action you take. You might even begin to unconsciously change your own personality, your own behaviors, just to avoid setting him off, to try and coax out that good version of them. This is no longer a relationship. Gentlemen, this is a prison with invisible, yet incredibly strong bars, some red flags to watch for. You consistently feel more alone, more anxious with them than you do without them. You find yourself constantly replaying conversations in your head, trying to figure out what went wrong, why they suddenly flipped. You feel like you're perpetually chasing that idealized, good version of them you likely met at the very beginning of the relationship. Here's the hard, painful truth. That good version, the one you fell for, it often wasn't entirely real. It was the bait. The Stoic strategy against this is to recognize that consistency is strength. The Stoics taught us that true virtue, true good character, doesn't need to perform. It simply endures. A genuinely good person is kind and respectful in public and in private. They don't weaponize affection, giving it and then withholding it to manipulate. They don't hide cruelty and contempt in the shadowy folds of superficial charm. Remember this: if someone consistently treats you like garbage in private, but like gold in public, they don't truly love you. They love your silence, your compliance, the image they can project by being associated with you. A final, crucial insight here: real, authentic love doesn't come with a mask. It doesn't constantly keep you guessing about your worth or its intentions. And it never requires you to shrink, to flinch, or to constantly explain away your pain. Anyone can play the hero in a room full of strangers. The true test of character, the only one that really matters, is how they consistently treat you when no one else is watching. When someone's kindness, their respect, their very demeanor depends entirely on who else is in the room, you're not dealing with a genuine partner. You're dealing with a skilled performer. And trust me on this, a wise soul, a self-respecting individual, doesn't audition for love. This often leads to sign number 5, the soul thief, the subtle saboteur who rewrites you. There was likely a time, perhaps before this person entered your life or before their influence took deep roots, when you laughed without holding back, when your joy was unconstrained, you dreamed fearlessly, you spoke your mind freely. Now, perhaps, you hesitate before you speak even the simplest thought. You find yourself shrinking in rooms you used to own with your presence. You might even avoid direct eye contact, as if it might expose something broken or vulnerable inside you. But here's the profound truth you need to grasp. You're not inherently broken. More likely, you've been subtly, systematically rewritten, not by chance, not by some unfortunate accident, but often by someone who slowly, methodically stole little pieces of your soul, your confidence, your essence, all while perhaps calling it love, or worse, help. This is the art of subtle sabotage. Soul thieves, these psychological parasites, rarely destroy you with overt insults or outright aggression, at least not initially. They often do it with advice, with concern, with guidance. "Oh, I just want what's best for you. You know, I'm only saying this because I genuinely care about you." You might want to be a little more realistic about that, don't you think? They don't directly tell you to quit your dream. They just gently, persistently call it impractical or a long shot. They don't overtly mock your joy or enthusiasm. They just subtly suggest it's a bit too much, or a little over the top. This isn't constructive correction. It's a slow, insidious corrosion of your spirit. It's when your biggest dreams are quietly, consistently dismissed as mere delusions. Do you remember who you were before you felt you needed their permission just to exist? To be yourself, that version of you, the one who perhaps danced without caring about rhythm, who dared to speak up even when their voice shook, who had strong opinions, who wanted things loudly and unapologetically. That vibrant person didn't just disappear into thin air. More often, they were subtly shamed into silence, into conformity. One dismissive look when you shared your passion, one friendly suggestion to tone it down a bit, one seemingly harmless joke at the expense of your ambitious goals. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you stopped sharing. Then, perhaps, you stopped trying, and eventually, tragically, you might have even stopped believing you ever could achieve those things in the first place. Here's a vital Stoic insight: know, with unwavering certainty, the difference between who you authentically are at your core and who they might be subtly trying to shape you into, often for their own comfort or control. Epictetus powerfully warned us, "Do not trade your free will for anything, for it is priceless. Do not trade your true nature for their approval. Your identity, your essence, is not a group project. You do not need a consensus from others to be who you fundamentally are." The lie is often hidden inside phrases like, "I'm just being honest with you," or "I'm the only one who will tell you the truth." Soul thieves frequently wear the mask of brutal honesty, but their version of truth is often weaponized, designed to diminish, not to edify. They might tell you that you overthink everything until you no longer trust your own faults or analytical abilities. They might insist that you're too sensitive until you gradually stop allowing yourself to feel your genuine emotions altogether. They subtly, persistently convince you that your instincts are flawed, that your emotions are exaggerated, that your goals are naive or foolish. And the more they help you in this way, the more you often retreat into the smaller, more cautious, less vibrant version of yourself, until they've effectively molded you into something almost unrecognizable, even to yourself. The walls they build around you, they don't always need to physically lock you in a room. They just need to make you afraid to ever confidently leave one, to step outside the carefully prescribed role they've created for you. Every suggestion starts to feel like a thinly veiled correction. Every smile seems to hide a subtle warning. You find yourself censoring your own faults before they ever even have a chance to leave your mouth. You weren't originally weak. You became strategic, desperately trying to survive someone who insidiously demanded that you shrink, just enough to fit comfortably within their shadow. But here is the Stoic solution, the path to liberation. Reclaim what was systematically taken. Here's the radical, empowering truth. Every single part of you that they tried to bury, your authentic joy, your true voice, your innate boldness, your most cherished dreams, it's all still there, within you. They were never truly lost, just hidden, perhaps deeply, under layers of manipulation, doubt, and fear. And now that you are beginning to see this dynamic for what it truly is, you possess the inherent power to reclaim it all. But it won't happen by passively waiting for them to change, or for them to somehow give it back to you. You will need to actively, courageously take it back. Start by listening, truly listening, to your own voice again, that quiet whisper of intuition you were told to ignore. Start by doing one small thing today that they subtly or overtly said you couldn't or shouldn't do. Start by deliberately, vividly remembering who you were before you were systematically told to doubt yourself, before your light was deliberately dimmed. A final, crucial reminder on this point: no one who genuinely, truly loves you will ever ask you to become less than who you are. No one who truly respects you will ever turn your growth into a source of their guilt-tripping. And no one, absolutely no one, deserves the unearned power to rewrite your identity, to diminish your spirit, just because you once trusted them, once loved them. The soul thief, the psychological parasite, only truly wins if you forget what was taken from you, if you forget the vibrant, capable person you were and still are. But today, right now, in this moment, you've remembered, and that awakening is the beginning of everything. You've made it to the end of this intense journey through these dark patterns. But the truth is, this may just be the very beginning of your real, profound awakening, because now, hopefully, you've begun to see them, these psychological parasites, for what they truly are, not as dramatic monsters from horror films, but often as ordinary faces, people who use subtle, dark intentions to manipulate and control, not as demons with horns and pitchforks, but as people, perhaps people you loved, people you trusted, who systematically made you question your worth, your memory, your very identity. And maybe, just maybe, you've realized something even deeper, something even more painful yet liberating. The reason it was often so incredibly hard to walk away, to set those boundaries, was because you kept desperately hoping they'd somehow turn back into the charming, loving person they pretended to be at the very start of your relationship. But they likely won't, because, in many cases, that idealized initial persona never truly existed. That was the mask, that was the bait, and now, for you, the mask has finally, irrevocably, fallen. So, what is the Stoic way forward from here? Marcus Aurelius, in his infinite wisdom, once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." These demons, these psychological parasites, these toxic individuals, yes, they were the obstacle, they were the source of immense pain and confusion, but they can also be, paradoxically, your most powerful path forward. Because you endured them, you have invariably grown. Because you are now beginning to see them clearly, you have awakened. Because you have survived this, you are no longer the same. You are, without a doubt, stronger, sharper, calmer, and more authentically you than you've perhaps ever been. And now, it's your turn. Now it's time to diligently protect your precious energy, to courageously rebuild your sacred boundaries, to passionately reclaim your authentic identity. And if this video, these difficult truths, spoke to you on a deep level, then perhaps it's also time to make sure that others, who might still be asleep to these dynamics, don't stay in the dark as long as you perhaps did. Please, share this video. You genuinely never know who out there desperately needs to hear these words. Right now, at this very moment in their lives. And if you felt seen today, if you felt understood, then I urge you to subscribe to my channel, because this isn't just another YouTube channel. We are building a quiet rebellion here, a movement of minds consciously choosing strength over suffering, clarity over chaos, and unshakable truth over insidious manipulation. We've got so much more to uncover, more limiting beliefs to unlearn, and so much more of our true selves to become. So, join us, because the real, authentic, powerful you absolutely deserves to rise. And don't stop here, watch the next video. It's already queued up and waiting to take you even deeper on this journey of self-discovery and empowerment. And always remember, Stoic wisdom isn't just an ancient philosophy for those who learn to wield it. It's profound protection.